This is a message from your guides reading for divine expression. So I have 3 crystals here. I'm going to go ahead and surround this in protective space with my smoky quartz. Okay, so you definitely have some guides present, and they're not really talking quite yet. But I'll start the way I always do and go over the meanings of these crystals. So I have my smoky quartz here, which is associated with the root chakra. So it's a really grounding stone. And then it also has a lot to do with mental clarity. It helps with meditation, bringing focus. And also it helps with clearing your energy field and protecting your space from negative energies, psychic attacks, all that sort of thing. And then I have my malachite here. It has some of the same attributes that the smoky quartz does. It's very grounding. It's also very protective. And this is really basically any type of protection. It can be physical protection. Then specifically, it protects a person while they're traveling. And then, of course, psychically, it offers protection as well. And I'm feeling some kind of angelic sort of energy that's, I feel like that's actually the reason that I pulled this, believe it or not. There's a feeling of like a masculine kind of archangel type of energy. This could be Michael, or it's definitely a male archangel that's coming in. And this is part of the association here has to do with the grounding. I do feel like Archangel Michael, but I feel like part of the confusion here is I think there might be more than one actually coming in. But these are more like kind of well-known energies, and they're not so much guides. They're more like sort of, those can almost be sort of universal guides in a sense. They can be energies that come to anyone at different points if the person needs just extra attention, extra energy for some reason. So then I have my sunstone here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and uh, clear with my sunstone. So I'll do the visualization again. Okay, so this is going right to your shoulders. to start with. So shoulders typically have to do with ancestors, and it doesn't only have to be ancestors like people who have passed on, but even living relatives who are older than us, so usually like parents, grandparents. But it can also be ties to other family members as well. It can even be people like authority figures. So it doesn't have to be strictly one thing, but typically it's like parents, grandparents, and then ancestors. So there's definitely some cord clearing here happening going on in the shoulders. And some energies that they're removing. There's definitely a kind of purging going on right now with your energy field that they're trying to do here. It also feels almost like endings to certain things, because they're also kind of vaguely talking about tying up loose ends. So there's almost this feeling like kind of endings to cycles, but a lot of these feel more like energy cycles, more like things going on in your energy field. And even related to your emotions and emotional behaviors. And there's even a feeling of like obstacles that you face, almost like an ending to cycles with certain obstacles, but that are attracted out of certain emotions that you carry within your energy field. So this is kind of a general clearing that's happening, but at the same time, there's a slant to almost specific areas, or you could even say topics, and even the idea of emotions. Some of this does feel mental as well, some of the clearing, but a lot of this is tied to the emotions. Even if it does have to do with something mental, some mental belief or something, it still feels like it's directly tied in with your emotions, your emotional body, as in that was kind of what started anything else that they're clearing in any other bodies. So they're kind of attacking this like emotional body type of stuff first. And they're also, now they're talking about breathing. When you breathe really, really deeply, you automatically connect to your emotional body. It's a really good kind of deep cleansing kind of activity or technique for your emotional body. Drinking a lot of water is really good as well. Just for while they're doing this specifically. Then there's a lot going on with the heart chakra. Obviously, the heart chakra can have to do things, can have to do with things with the emotional body, obviously, emotional expression, things that we've picked up on emotionally, maybe that we're holding on to, that we need to release. And also just ways that we are expanding, we're becoming more more emotional or more heartfelt. We're allowing our expression to come through our emotions more. This can even be in an artistic way as well, where we're allowing that through. Even where we're allowing guidance to come to us more in an emotional way. So almost where your guides are kind of speaking empathically, kind of sending emotional suggestions as guidance, and then of course picking up on other people like empathically. So all this can be related to the heart chakra. And actually, what's funny is I was playing heart chakra music when I was setting up my sacred space in the room, right before I went into this reading specifically. There's just kind of a lot of heavy energies. Now, heavy a lot of times it can almost denote something negative, but this is feeling like guides, but there's a kind of very masculine energy with them, and then at the same time they feel kind of dense, or like very grounded, like they're trying to provide this sense of grounding. Now, you had a female guide coming in as well, and her energy actually reminded me of yours quite a bit. So I'm thinking that's got to be some kind of maybe a future aspect of you, or some other sort of higher or universal kind of aspect of you. I'm figuring, just because of the energy, it felt like yours. So, but it was coming in more like a guide, feeling like a guide. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to my malachite here. So they're wanting me to do a lot of clearing, as you can see with this reading. They're wanting me to help them out a little bit here, I guess, with the clearing that they're already doing. Okay, that's the second time that's come up. There's also some kind of whale energy that's coming in, but that almost, it doesn't feel like, this doesn't feel necessarily like a guide who contracted with you to almost be with you your whole life. This feels more like what I'd call like a temporary guide or an in and out guide. So a guide that's there with you either for short periods or one kind of period or stage of your life, or even maybe they're with you for a long time, but they're supposed to help you with a specific process and they're only there to a certain point, and then some other guide sort of replaces them, or maybe you don't really even need a replacement anymore, and your regular guides just kind of fill whatever position that temporary guide was taking up. So just someone to help you with a specific stage of your life. Again, there's this very kind of dense sort of energy, and there's that feeling that you feel with whales sometimes of how they're extremely large, they're very massive, like boats moving through the water, but at the same time very magical, and there's this sense that they can kind of float in and out of different dimensions, so dimensional travel. There's also a feeling of healing coming in with this guide, and that he's helping you to heal things, heal old wounds, it feels like, and mend things. Some of this even feels like relationships as well. And again, we're getting into emotional stuff again. Some of this is feeling like past hurts. And this guide is there to kind of help you transcend some of those older energies that need to be lifted out of your emotional body and your other bodies as well, so that you're on a higher vibration. And whales typically help with things like that. They help with moving into higher vibrations, higher vibrational aspects of ourselves. And again, there's this sort of not only non-dimensional, but kind of timeless feeling with whales. They can traverse time, traverse space or dimensions. So they can definitely help with raising our vibration. Again, there's also this connection to water, um, drinking water. And now this guide is pointing out holding your breath, because whales submerge themselves in the water. They hold their breath for a really long time, and then they let it out. So not only just like breathing really deeply, but now he's getting more into like actual breathing exercises or breathing techniques. So this would be more like if you look into kind of yoga. There's different breathing exercises where you're focusing on holding your breath. So breathing really deeply and practicing holding your breath and then letting it out and continuing that. But there are definitely some specific exercises that would come up for sure if you were to research like pranayama and just yogic breathing exercises, specifically with the emphasis on holding your breath though. And he's also talking about rejuvenating your body, how this helps to rejuvenate your body. It feels like there's some repair that kind of needs to be done in there with your lungs. It feels like your throat, which I'm remembering came up during another reading. There was something coming up about your throat, healing that chakra and getting that in tune. It feels like that's going a little bit better though. It feels like they have cleared some things going on with the throat chakra in there. And then there's also this feeling of spending time in nature, and there's a feeling of trees, and again this feeling of oxygen, how the trees are letting out so much oxygen. So there's a lot more oxygen in natural places like that. There's a lot of fresh air, not so much like smoke filling your lungs from debris and different things that we breathe in, and just toxic chemicals and fumes. So again, it feels like almost like lung damage. They would want to um, repair. It feels like. But breathing fresh air really deeply helps with that. And that helps with detoxifying. There's also a feeling of like distilled water. And also purified water, making sure that the water that you're drinking is purified of any kind of chemicals or things like this. Um, Even like ozonated water, where they're putting the oxygen through the water. They're talking about electrolytes as well. But making sure that that the water you drink is very clean, very pure, because they're saying that this is something that can be used to actually detoxify all of your different um, bodies. And there's something coming in about your cells too, almost like rejuvenating cells and almost like tissue damage, but specifically with cells, and almost like diseased or like sick or damaged cells, which they're also pointing out are different things. because they're saying that you can have a diseased cell or you can have a damaged cell. Those are almost like two different things. So you can have a sick cell that's carrying something, or you can have a cell that's almost kind of broken down somewhat. It's not really carrying anything like bacteria or something harmful to you, but it's just like the tissue has broken down. So the cells aren't almost working properly, or almost like as the cells, how do I say that in English? Almost like as your body produces new cells, you think of like your cells almost repairing, like obviously cells die and then you get new ones all the time. So then you would almost think, okay, so why do people have scar tissue, or why do people keep still having the same occurring things with their body or whatever? But there's almost a feeling like the cells, um, they almost like repeat themselves. There's almost a feeling like that. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly how to get this across with English, but almost like the cells are almost like copies. And so they look the same. They have the same type of damage, even if it's like a new cell. Um, so something almost has to trigger the cells and the DNA to like repair itself. But they're saying like this is even why people age. Things break down and then they keep like copying themselves in this way. And they slowly get worse over time rather than rejuvenating themselves. But they're also saying that this all has to do with beliefs. This really comes down basically to beliefs. But they're saying that with the beliefs that you have, it's like you can't, oh, sometimes you can, but you generally on earth, we can't just sort of go boom and those beliefs are just gone and shattered and suddenly we're ageless and we're totally rejuvenated and or we suddenly changed our hair color, without dye or something, right? Or we, you know, their point is you just change something completely spontaneously that wouldn't make sense in a physical structure. That's very possible to do. But our beliefs tend to go according to that structure, and those are sort of the beliefs that we're experiencing here. So we can pull out of them, but usually the easiest way to pull out of them is within the context of that structure, what the beliefs say you can or can't do. So you take a pill, or you exercise if you want to lose weight, for instance, or you eat better. And they're saying now still you're doing it all with your mind. You're not actually using something else. This is just all pictures. But because you think that you're using that thing, your mind will sort of play along, and allow the creation of that because it doesn't think it's doing it itself. But it actually is. So they're saying it's according to your beliefs and just sort of what will kind of trigger the healing for you. But they're also saying it is possible to just simply believe strongly enough and overnight, your eyes are healed or your throat is healed, or they're even now talking about like addictions, or an addiction is just simply gone. You didn't need any kind of therapy or any kind of outside help, whether it's medicinal in some way or going to a person. like a psychologist or a doctor or a friend or whatever it is. So they're saying that some things can just leave, and then other things, they could just leave, but the way that we allow them to do that is we have a sort of process that fits within, again, within the context of our physical reality beliefs that we have here. Okay, so that is all that your guides have to say. Oh yeah, and I am over the time frame, which I didn't even realize I would have just kept going if they hadn't have stopped me. So thank you so much for allowing me to do another reading for you. I truly hope, as always, that it has benefited you. Thank you. Namaste.